Hello and welcome to the two-man power trip of wrestling. I'm your host, JP John Poz. With me today, very special guest. He's, of course, a British wrestling legend, former British heavyweight champion, former British light heavyweight champion, former CWA tag team champion. He is Mr. Marty Jones. Marty, welcome to the two-man power trip. How you doing?
Thanks for having me, John. How are you?
Doing good, doing good. What's going on in your world?
Not a lot at the moment. I'm saying not a lot. I'm running a few shows. I've got my own squared circle gym here in Manchester, where I pass my knowledge on and just teach the up and coming stars, mainly for the NXT UK brand, And I'm just putting a few kids out there that's just about show ready, putting them on some shows, and I've been a bit sidetracked last 3 years. I've got 17 screws in my ankle at the moment. I have for the last 3 years an operation. I needed what they call an ankle fusion with wrestling over the years, I had a gap in my ankle. Everything was successful, and I needed a new knee. And they say wrestlers don't get hurt, John, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So I don't get in the ring anymore, but I still do my seminars and teaching and traveling around Europe now and again.
What's that like as far as training and stuff? Because, man, you got a wealth of knowledge to hand out there to those kids.
Yeah, but I sit down. I mean, all the great coaches, your Carl Gotches and Billy Robinsons and all that. Very rarely did they get in the ring. They just, hey, put your feet here, do this, do that, and I show them a couple of sequences and fitness. And I had a good amateur background as well that comes into play. So I've got a good little track record at the moment with supplying talent, or people that come to my gym anyway. So I'm happy with that.
I feel like lately, right? Ridge Holland was one of the guys, one of your guys, right, from
That's
WWE.
right, yeah. Ridge Holland, Saxon Huxley, Sam Gradwell, just to name a few. And then quite a lot of girl talent came to my place. And I just showed them the finishing touches, And I'm pleased to say they're all doing very well. But Ridge
How's that?
Holland is looking good too.
Yeah, big time. How's that relationship with WWE? Because it seems like you're kind of like, hey, you train the guy, you get kind of the fast track, if you will, for them.
No. Sorry, what's the first part of your question?
Like, how's the relationship with WWE and yourself as far as training the guys and kind of sending them over?
Well, to be fair, as you know, there's a few people that I know who. Well, it's a very difficult question, this, but for your listeners, I'm very friendly with Johnny Moss, who's part of the WWE centre there. I can only recommend people. I don't speak to. I've actually been to the WWE as a guest for one day, but I pass. Anybody can get a tryout if they're good enough or they're able to, because all you have to do is fill forms in these days and send them off to WWE. But what I try and do is, if you think about it, John, we've got Johnny Moss, we've got Robbie Brookside, we've got Fit Finlay, we've got a host of coaches, and they're all British.
Yep.
That are training there. They're part of it. And if I say, oh, I've got a guy from such and such a place, he's been training me for a while, and if there's any opportunities that you do, NXT UK type of tryout, or you need some bodies, just let me know. But as you know, NXT UK at the moment it's dried up a little bit because we've had so much going on with all the pay-per-views and WrestleMania and this, that, and the other. And there's rumours having it that it's got the NXT UK brand, which I like that brand. I like that style of work,
Yep.
They've gone a bit quiet at the moment because they've had so much on, like I say. But what they are doing is an NXT Europe, where they possibly move in the band, to Germany or Italy or somewhere. And I can see that being a good thing because they'll give the local talent a bit of a tryout plus a show, and then they'll use some of the NXT people as well. I mean, a lot of the guys, Sam Gradwell, for argument's sake, and Saxon Huxley, remember him?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Well, he's trained with me, and he's actually in Japan at the moment, doing very, very well. And I still keep in touch with Regal and Johnny Moss, like I say, and they're that busy. They ring me every blue moon. We have a good chat, but I can recommend people, but they have to send the equivalent of the promos in. They've got to look the part. They've got to send the matches in. It's their final decision, not mine.
And obviously, you're not going to tell them anybody that isn't good either. So, I mean, they're going to listen to you a little bit.
Well, I hope so, because it's my neck's on the line as well, you know. Right. I mean, there is some girls that I've sent there that are not actually. How can I put it? I didn't think they'd do well, but I just wanted them to have a look at it because they've got their own way of training, which I know a lot of it, so I can help them before they go there. And it's just a potential. Go away, get some matches under your belt, and come back. I just like people to get to have a chance, and if they take that chance, all well and good, you know.
Yeah, you're giving them the opportunity, basically.
That's it. That's all I'm doing, yeah. Plus, I have my gym where we train on a Wednesday night for a couple of hours and Saturday mornings for a couple of hours, and anybody can come down and train, you know, from a novice to show standard. Then I run I run trainee shows. I maybe have a good top of the bill, the main event, and then I put all the trainees, because it's very hard jumping into a ring without a crowd, and you think you're the finished article, and you're not. So I give them all aspects of training and the fundamentals, and then if they put it into practice, then everything's fine.
How would you say your training style is? Like, how would you kind of describe it? Are you Billy Robinson type? Are you, working them to the bone?
Yeah. I'm going to tell you something now, John, that you might be surprised about. Billy Robinson has never showed anybody any professional wrestling.
Whoa. Okay.
And if anybody wants to, argue the point, I trained with Billy Robinson when I was 6 years of age doing amateur wrestling, catch as catch can, freestyle wrestling, shoot wrestling. And if you ever mentioned pro wrestling in that gym, you got thrown out. Now then, Billy did have some George Gordienko and people like that was in the UK that came down to the gym, but they didn't have a ring. We had mats on the horsehair mats on the floor. And when all these people say I was trained under Billy Robinson, they went to his seminars. They didn't get in the ring with Billy Robinson because he never, ever. It was a bad word, professional wrestling, with Billy. He travelled to Japan. He went all over the world. It was like my uncle, if you know what I mean, because my dad and his mother were very friendly with my dad and mother. And I went down when I was 6 years of age, like I said, and learned amateur wrestling. But as soon as he knew that I was turning professional, that was it. But so, John, if anybody tells you, I hear people say I was trained by Billy Robinson. The answer to the question is they weren't. They may have been trained at amateur, which I'd have known them because we was there all the time. And but he never ever showed anybody any professional moves. It was a holy grail with Billy. He protected the professional job 100%.
Wow,
and that's how he was. Yeah.
So how was he as a guy, as a friend, as a mentor? How was he then?
I can't swear on here, but
sure.
No, he was like I said, he was a family friend as well. We know my parents, and he took to me a little bit because it's a funny thing. This that Billy Robinson was blind in one eye, and I am as well. So wow. He took to me as a little kid at 6 years of age, and he was a great mentor. He was a great. I mean, 1 year, John. In the amateur ranks, we had competitions. you had the Northern Counties, the Lancashire Counties. And if you won them, you went through to the British Championships. And there was 11 weights one year. 11 weights, different weights. And Billy Robinson's gym got 7 winners out of 11. Wow. And that was the year of the Olympics in, I think it was Munich, 77 or something. I can't remember. And not one got picked from the Failsworth Amateur Wrestling Club because the amateurs didn't want to know anything about the professional game. Even though these are facts that I've learned since I've come in the business. Even though George Relwisco and company and the British promoters gave money towards all these trips and the Olympic Committee. And the daft thing is, the main guy, let's say the chairman, he'll go mad if I don't think he's alive now anyway, but he used to wrestle professional in a mask. But they wouldn't discuss. Professional wrestling was blacklisted with the amateur guys. But I don't know why. I mean, they still are now, but I mean, amateur wrestling is one of the toughest and best sports there is. I mean, all your MMA fighters and UFC guys, the top 12 in UFC, they've all done amateur wrestling.
Yep.
You know, but that brings me on to the point, John. School, because at the present time, especially in the UK, and I don't know what it's like in America, around the world, anybody nowadays could be a pro wrestler. All they have to do is turn up at the gym, and I blame the coaches sometimes because obviously they want the money off the kids, you know, for training. Yep. But some of them, they don't even look the part. They're like matchstick men, you know?
Yes. Yep.
And it's just my view on it, that's all.
It's too easy to get in the business sometimes, which is kind of...
oh, yeah. Well, when I started, I had to be recommended. It was either your father or your mother or somebody that had been in the business, you know, your brothers or whatever. But it's got to the stage that you have to go down to a proper gym, which I run a proper gym, and you had to serve your apprenticeship. And it wasn't easy. I mean, there's a lot of guys that can't even defend themselves in the ring, but it's just the way the job's gone. But I moved into the professional ranks, and I must admit, as soon as I did it, I was welcomed because they had a good mentor. And all the tough guys thought, oh, this kid must be okay. He's come from Billy Robinson's gym. I came in the business the right way. So all the top pros looked after me, and I mean, I was only in the business 6 months, and I got a trip to Mexico.
Wow.
Which for somebody from Great Britain and England, nobody's ever been outside of England. I mean, to go to Mexico, it was in 1977 when I went. I mean, I'd never been on a jumbo aeroplane before. I was only 18. But I went there for 3 weeks and stayed there 3 months. I really enjoyed it. And
you
it
like
also
that style?
And it also, yeah. Well, it's not that I like their style; they like my style.
Mm.
And because I worked with some really fantastic wrestlers that had been to Europe or been around the world, Mil Mascaros, Pedro Aguayo, the Blue Diamond, Fishman, and all them, I soon picked their style up. But that's another thing. Makes me laugh sometimes. When I do my wrestling seminars, I ask people to give me some questions. And they always say, you know, do wrestlers talk to each other in the ring? I can't speak Mexican.
Right.
And there's a wrestler over in this country called Alan Kilby and Harry Kendall. They're both deaf and dumb. How can you speak to them in the ring?
Right.
But the thing is, when I was wrestling on World of Sport and things like that, championship matches, and when you're in Mexico doing an hour draw, that's 12 5-minute rounds, John. That's an hour. You go for a walk for an hour. Never mind throwing people around.
Right.
So I can answer all the critics. And that's the way it is. But this is why I'm sat here now with 17 screws in my ankle.
How do you communicate though? Is it just the unspoken language of wrestling? You kind of, you know what you're doing and where you're going and how to do it.
It's all changed, John. I mean, in my day, you had to watch when you went to Japan, and I was lucky enough to go to Japan 7, 8 times. You were thrown in the ring with a young kid or a young Japanese, and you were fighting for your life. But because I'd done amateur wrestling, I was okay. I was on the first ever tour where Vince McMahon Sr., that's Vince McMahon, Dad, he brought a team over to Japan. And they didn't know how they were going to take it because they thought American wrestlers were all fantasy and, the style that they did. Your Hulk Hogan's and all that. But Bob Backlund went, who was a fantastic amateur wrestler. I was tagging with Andy the Giant. We was already there and they asked us to stay on. Chief J. Strongbow and Nikolai Volkov, Tony Gurria, Scarland, all them, they could all wrestle and handle themselves. But the first match on was Chief J. Strongbow. So how do you think the Japanese crowd are going to react to a guy coming in doing the war dance with all feathers and chopping and...
Right.
Anyway, he came out and he brought the house down because he'd never seen that before. It's all serious wrestling in Japan. So there's always room for gimmick men, but a lot of these gimmick men, as you call them, they can all wrestle. In my day, when you was on with Rocco and on with Fit Finlay, Fit Finlay's there doing a tremendous job at the Performance Centre. He teaches all the girl wrestlers. Every girl that you see on there, Fit Finlay's trained them. And what it is, it's just something about it. You work, you can work together. But if somebody hit you and you felt it, you gave it them back. That's what he expected,
Yep, definitely.
And if anybody says I'm telling lies, it's a look. See, the new breed, don't talk to me about putting people through tables and doing light bulbs and all this. I just won't turn up. I'm just a load of shit. That's cheap heat.
And when you look at kind of that, your style, if you will, you could do that when the match breaks down. I notice a lot of times nowadays, if there's a mistake or the match breaks down or something, they're completely lost. I mean, it's just horrible.
Yeah, the easiest way is a lot of them rehearse and they do this, do that, do that. Guys nowadays, you jump on a plane, get to the other end, get a taxi, go to the show, and they could work with another worker. 2 top professionals, no matter who it is, will work together because they'll take a leg, they'll take an arm, and they'll use that and they'll sell it. And the other guy sells it and he works it. And this game, I learned the hard way. I didn't know what cowboys and Indians were. In other words, I'd get smashed up and all of a sudden I'd do a big comeback. But I've got a bit of a motto in my gym. You can be a professional wrestler being slim, fat, ugly, good looking. At the end of the day, there's room for you. And I respect anybody, and I mean anybody, whether I get on with them or not. I respect anybody who puts a pair of wrestling boots on and defends the business. I would always wondered if there was 2 kids on and one big guy at the end, at the back of the hall, jumps the ring. Would they be able to handle themselves?
True. Maybe not. Yeah.
No, that's it. Maybe not.
Yeah. Probably not.
A lot of them nowadays can't.
Yep.
But don't forget, a lot of my moves and a lot of the greats, right, used amateur moves. in their armory,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So it's like fashion, this game, John. I mean, the miniskirts and the boob tops and the suits and the cravats are all coming back because they've had everything else. So it comes back in fashion again. And that's why, I don't know if you watched it, there was a match on last week. What was it? No Mercy, WWE.
Yep.
Did you watch it at all?
I didn't see the whole show, no.
Did you see, I call him Stroganoff, but his name's that Illy Dragunov.
Versus Carmelo Hayes. I haven't seen it yet, but I heard it was great.
Well, I'm not going to tell you what it was like. Even though I'm in the business, I must admit, I thought they knocked shit out of each other. And I talk to people that are high up in places, and I watch it, and I tell them my views. I mean, Johnny Saint, you know Johnny Saint?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Well, he's part of my gym as well. But Johnny's 80-odd now. Bulldog Colin Johnson, he had his leg amputated in this job. He got an injury and he got sepsis in it. But they come down to the gym and they pass their knowledge on. Now, I think the world of sport wrestling is starting to come back again. Not all this flying around. Now, there's a lot of American guys that only know how to fly around because they've never been shown the other stuff or have a proper fight. And that's what this business is. When they come to my gym, I just look, try and be different. When Charlotte Flair and Ric Flair, they come down that what do you call it, the gateway there, you look at the gowns and the appearance. They've invested in themselves and they look the part. And they're different from the average Joe Blogs. I know it's good to have a good body. I've never lifted a weight in my life. I hated weightlifting, never did it. But because of my amateur days and doing circuit training, my stamina, these days, if I was on with Fit Finlay, for argument's sake, the promoter never told us what to do. He'd probably suggest. But if I was in Ireland wrestling Dave Finlay in his hometown and the place is packed, who do you think would win?
Big close one, big good one.
Who would you think would win, John?
You.
Why?
I don't know. You got that shoot style. I don't know.
No, but so's Fit Finlay. He's an excellent Olympic wrestler. But we would go in there and work, and maybe the finish, they all want the hometown boy to win. So he would take 80% of the show, but I'd beat him at the finish to do a return match if it was a good house, so we can get him back in again. No hard feelings. He'd probably do the same for me in my own town. But it's one thing with Finlay, one thing about Rocco and people like that. When your adrenaline is flowing, you're like a racehorse, it can kick you in the back. Rocco especially. Your teeth would land in the front row, you hit you that hard.
Wow, jeez.
So the next thing is you grab him, you give him a kick as well. No hard feelings. And you can see the matches. I'm not saying they've all got to be like that, but all I want people to do, and if you ask me what my perspective of the business is, one, look the part. Don't come in wearing a hat and a lollipop and a string vest. Invest in yourself, because we are entertainers when all's said and done. But it's good. I'd like to see two people, male or female, and I'll say this on TV now, a lot of the girl matches are better than the guy matches. I mean, going back to that fast lane, it pissed me off a little bit when Becky Lynch, who's a fantastic girl, and the other girl who's good looking, and I saw the chemistry they had, and they did one of them no holds barred matches,
Yep.
And they brought a screwdriver into the ring. I turned it off there, and that was it. But I didn't. I kept watching it. And the bodies were battered and bruised. But I just don't get all this bringing dustbins in it. But on saying that, the modern day crowd, you put them on in the right places, they're charging expensive money and they're filling it. So they're doing something right. Yep. But I think slowly but surely they're killing the business for that type of matches, you know.
Really? You think so?
Yeah. I mean, when me and Rocco were wrestling, we'd been to the hall a few times. And I'm not being big-headed talking about me. You can ask anybody. We had some good heat between ourselves. And all you've got to do, and if any of your viewers are listening to this, just go on YouTube and watch my matches against Finlay and Rocco. They're all on there. I had a match with Owen Hart, and that's on YouTube. And the voice of wrestling, Mr. Kent Walton, he said, this is the best match I've commentated on in, say, 25 years. That made me a star overnight because he'd said that. Because people believe what he said. If they said, like, he took his leg off and hit him with the soggy end, they'd believe him. Because that's the way it was. Every Saturday in England, we used to have 15 to 18 million viewers watching wrestling every Saturday at 4 o'clock. So that was our shop window, John. So when that match came to the local hall or your hometown, people used to go and see it. But I just like to see, because I do call it a sporting entertainment, right?
Yep.
Because I'm trying to protect the job. I just like to see two people depict in a fight. Whether there's entertainment in it and a bit of flying around in it. I see things these days, and I probably get shot for saying this, but there's some fantastic workers, but they're going in with a gold chain on or a ring on the finger. That shouldn't be allowed. It was never allowed in our... I mean, Ricochet's a fantastic worker. A lot of the Hayes, who you mentioned,
yep,
Street Profits and people like that, they can wrestle and gymnastic, but they've all got a gold chain on. It should be allowed. I mean, Rhea Ripley's out of this world. Her physique and the way that she works. But all her costumes got all studs all over it.
Yeah, true. Yeah, yep.
So I don't get it when somebody gives her a tackle. The body should be all punctured, you know what I mean?
Yep.
But the thing is, it's a viewing. They must have good viewing figures. And if we put American wrestling coming to our town, we do better than just putting wrestling on, you know. But the good thing is you're doing something right. And because I'm probably old school, I can't start. I mean, AEW, I've got some good friends in that. I mean, the young kid there, Nick Wayne, 17, 18, he's out of this world. But now they've turned him heel after 6 months. Whether it's the right thing to do, I don't know. But it's a good storyline. But what I can't understand about AEW, and please, this is only my view as an ex-professional wrestler. Why is it they can't do a match without somebody getting involved at the end, distracting the referee? Not on one match, every match on AEW.
Yeah, not well booked, yeah.
I'm not saying it is or it isn't. You know, some great characters there, and your John Moxley's and, you know, all this. It's pure pantomime and theatre, and you can get hurt in it. But whatever they're doing, if they're making money, good luck to them.
When you look at, you know, your time in wrestling and some of the guys you mentioned, the rollerball there, Rocco, a lot of the like great wrestlers, Finlay, you mentioned. Do you think that style, you know, you need to mix it in nowadays? But you think that maybe guys just don't want to work that style? I mean, Gunther, who's awesome, who's awesome, he works that style, Dragunov, but not a lot of the other guys do. Do you think that's just they don't want to work it, or they're going for the cheap
They're
pop?
probably told not to do it, but I'll be honest with you, every British guy that's there, Tyler Bates, Devlin, and all them guys, they can do it.
Yeah.
No, they can do it. And you talk about Gunther, you know straight away that you're going to get your head chopped off. And if you can't stand it, if you can't stand the heat, don't be in the kitchen. It's just the way it is. And then it makes me laugh in this country and all over Europe. A promoter, you can say, right, guys, you go in there and do your best, give us a good match. That's all I say. But we do me a favour, can you give me like 10, 15 minutes? If you said half an hour, they have a nosebleed, John. I can't do half an hour. It's the fight business at the end of the day. And a lot of people who listen to this, I don't know what your viewing figures are. They'll say, oh, he's talking a load of shit. But talking a load of shit and telling the truth puts asses on seats. And, I mean, Andre the Giant, the 8th wonder of the world, when he was 17, 18, he came over to Wigan, where catch wrestling was invented. A lot of the people, the top names, can do catch wrestling. There's a lot of American guys that can't do it because they've only been shown the other way. But you don't have to be a good catch wrestler to be a good pro wrestler. But at least make it look the part.
Right, like Zack
And
Sabre
if anybody
Jr.
doesn't agree with me, just go on my YouTubes, and I don't put them on TV. Other people have put them on.
Like
but
Zack
when you
Sabre
mention
Jr.,
Gunter when you mention Gunter, the two guys that are with him, his tag team partners, they can go a bit as well.
Yep.
Your Ridge Holland, international rugby player, he's took some bangs before he went wrestling. He was only in the wrestling business at my gym for 6 months, and then I took him to see William Regal. Next thing is, he's off to the Performance Centre. You know why? Because he looked the part. Butch can wrestle. Tyler Bates can wrestle. Devlin can wrestle. All the British lads can wrestle. And name you one guy that can't.
True, yep.
Because that's the way they was taught. And that's why I think NXT brand at the moment, there's something about it as well, because you've got some. Let me tell you, John, whoever does the recruiting, I don't know his name, but they started going in getting amateur wrestlers, Olympic champions and things like that, and take them to the Performance Centre. And they teach you the pro game.
Yep.
Some of them can't do it. I mean, look at that. When I first saw him, I thought, this is a joke. I didn't even know who he was. You know that Logan Paul?
Yeah.
So I turned it on, like everybody else in the world did, see how well he did. Now, he'd been at the Performance Centre for so long. Ronda Rousey. All right, she had a fighting background. But to adapt to this job, there's a lot of people that can't. That Logan Paul, when I saw him on with Ricochet and did that move where he was both on the top rope and they all collided in the middle, did you see it?
Yes.
Holy shit, how the hell did he do that? It's like when I went to Mexico, Pedro Aguayo, we call it the suicide dive. You know where they run and they dive through the ropes?
Yeah, oh yeah, of course.
Yeah, well, I was the first one that brought that back to England because I nicked it for when everybody did it in Mexico. Lucha Libre style. I brought it back in 77. The next night, or the first time I did it on TV, everybody was doing it.
And they do it today,
and that's
too.
How this job is. Yep. Everybody nicks your stuff.
Yep.
But if you can think of something different, that's why they think of different handles all the time. But I think it's just getting a bit too much when everybody else, you're trying to work a match out for like a storyline, and somebody else comes in and does this. No harm in coming in, but getting involved in the finish every time just naffs me off a little bit.
What did you think of Japan? I know we talked about that briefly. What
Loved
did you
it.
think of? So you
Loved
worked
it.
Andre over there. Did you work Hogan over there? I know you worked literally like a who's who of guys over there. It was crazy.
Well, you had the Japanese guys, and then the rest were guests, if you know what I mean.
Yep.
Well, I would like to say, Colin Johnson, I mentioned before, and the British guys in the 60s, 70s, they know the guys who could wrestle. And Japan's well known for schooling their young kids right. And it sounds daft, but Olympic wrestling with a bit of showmanship in it really went well. And when I was there with Andre the Giant, I was his tag partner. In other words, I did all the work, John. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it to be on with Inoki and Fujinami. Me and Fujinami had a great match. I did a lot of good matches, and I'm sounding big-headed here. It's always me who had a good match. But the truth of the matter was, I did have good matches with these people because I put them over and they put me over, and that's what I was there for.
Right.
I didn't look like a wrestler when I came out. I looked like a gynecologist. But they knew my background, and I gave as good as I got. And we're tagging with Andre the Giant. The guy was unbelievable. You know, everywhere he went, everybody knew Andre the Giant.
Definitely.
And at night time, you'd probably just done about 20 hours in a bus or something, or flying somewhere, and then he'd phone you up. Hey, come on, Marty, we're going out. This is 11, 12 o'clock at night. We're going out. I was like his mate, if you know what I mean, because the life he led was so difficult. Everybody wanted to touch him or see him, or he couldn't walk proper. But some of the stories about Andre the Giant, if I ever write a book, you know, autobiography or something like that, some of the things I saw you wouldn't believe. You know, when he says he drinks heavy and things like that.
Yep.
It was in his contract, John, that, you know, a big plastic dustbin, plastic one.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yep.
He'd have one of those full with big blocks of ice on the bus.
Oh, my God.
Liter bottles of Sapporo beer. One in the changing room and one on the bus going back. He took him 5 gulps down a litre.
Wow.
But I only saw him drunk once.
Must have been hard to get drunk. Jeez.
Eh?
He must have been hard to get drunk.
Well, he can drink beer, but the sponsors gave him some sake. And he doesn't like sake. And when you've got they like size 17 cowboy boots on, but they look like size 25 on a cobbled road when it's raining. And he took a bump. He was a hell of a guy to get up on his feet again. Especially when you're laughing and you fall over as well, you know, it's funny.
Yes, yes.
But no, he was a hell of a guy, hell of a draw. And it was a pleasure to work alongside him, you know.
And, man, you worked, like you said, Fujinami, Inoki. You worked Sayama, a.k.a. Tiger Mask, over there, kind of before he got, you know, super huge. But, man, awesome. Takada, before he became a huge star over there. You worked a lot of really good guys.
Well, I worked all of them. You know, that's what I'm proud of. And people think you're big-headed, but I worked Kido. I worked Takahashi. You know, I mean, he was a big dude. Begins with S. The big guy. Sakaguchi. You know? And people won't believe this. You travelled on the bus. The European and American, mainly American guys. And if you was found talking to any Japanese wrestler, you got the sack. You couldn't work your match out. You had to watch the match the night before. And the referee would say, I spot number 1, I spot number 2. You know what I mean? It was like a different way of wrestling. But when I was on that show where Inoki wrestled Muhammad Ali.
Oh, you were?
I think I was about the 12th match on. the second match it was, but it was 12 matches. And the security round them two guys, because the mafia were involved in it. Do you remember it was on satellite and all this? Well, I'm telling you now, with 5 minutes to go, let's call them the American mafia, where all the money was, were arguing the toss with the Japanese mafias who was going to win. Because he said the biggest sportsman in the world can't lose, which he is, or he was, Muhammad Ali.
Yep.
A boxer can always beat a wrestler. Well, you're wrong. A wrestler would always beat a boxer unless the boxer got a punch in first.
Yep.
Because obviously the wrestler would take him down on the floor to make him submit. And I've seen that many a time.
Yeah, you take him down. Yep.
Exactly. Or wrist lock or headlock or whatever. And then 5 minutes to go, the Japanese office said there's no way our guy can lose. He's going for parliament. He was going to be voting for politics and all that, you know.
Yep.
And he was a god, Inoki. So what did they do?
DQ finish.
No, they did a draw.
A draw finish. Yep.
Yeah. But they did an hour draw. And the rules were that Ali couldn't hit Inoki while he was on the floor.
Yep.
And all Inoki did, it was the worst match ever. He went, it was like, it was history. He went all around the world, satellite. It was a flop, to be honest. Not a lot of people went to see it.
It was boring. Inoki kicked him in the leg the whole time. Yeah, it was just boring. Yep.
Right, but then nobody knows that Ali, as soon as the match was finished, they rushed him to hospital with a suspected thrombosis in his leg. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But they sold the place out. I think
it's funny. His record after that fight kind of goes downhill a bit. I know he gets older, but they were saying he had such leg problems after that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well, you would be for an hour. Him booting you all the time.
Yeah.
Whereabouts are you based, John?
Asbury Park, New Jersey.
I wouldn't even know where that is.
Right by New York City.
All right. No, I went to. I was supposed to be going there this year to the States, doing my all aspects of pro wrestling. I went about 3 years ago and really enjoyed it tremendously. I started off with for Xavier Justice up in Michigan. And then I came down, Chris Silvio, a good friend of mine, in Lardo in Florida. Then I had a day at the Performance Center as a guest. And then I really enjoyed it, and I like his temperament, and he had some great students. Danny Cage, who's in Philadelphia, the Monster Factory.
Yep.
Ring of Honor, and I went to all them places, and I was supposed to go again this year. But it didn't materialise because me and Johnny Saint were going to go together, and there was a few problems. One of the guys backed out, so what happens, John? One promoter will take you from A to B, and then another promoter C to D, and so on. Anyway, have you ever heard of John Bullard?
Sounds familiar, actually.
He's a commentator, and they have like a consortium of promoters. And apparently, all the bookings and everything, the response was good. So I'm hoping to go back maybe next year, a bit too late this year, but to do it all again, because Xavier and them, they want it to happen, and I liked it in the States,
Yep. Did you ever wrestle in the States or in the States much?
The only place I wrestled was San Antonio, which is, I think, on the border of Mexico.
Yep, close.
And I wrestled for the Japanese New Japan office when they did Madison Square Garden. I was on with Hito. It was just a one-off at the Garden. which was a great experience.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, definitely big time experience.
Yeah.
You
I
remember who
always
you worked?
thought, pardon?
You remember who you worked?
A guy called Haito. Smallish guy, Japanese guy. No, it's good. I've been to Canada. I was with Stuart and the Hart Boys, you know.
Yep.
That was a great experience.
Where was your favorite place to wrestle, to work?
Japan, to be honest.
Really? What about
Yeah.
Japan?
Sorry?
What about Japan that you like so much?
Just the style. It was professionalism in my day, you know. Everything was done right, and you enjoyed your matches, and you could be on with a different guy every night. Mexico was good too. I mean, it's not all about me. You can ask me some questions about anybody, but when they use you right in Mexico, there's a lot of poverty there when I got there. And I've never been on a plane before. But when I got off the other end at Mexico onto the runway, they met me in a car. It had no doors on this car. And I'm whizzing through the city and I'm frightened to death. And the poverty over there, John, was terrible, but they treated you right, you know. I mean, it was that Pedro Aguayo was a fantastic worker. And he was, you know, in Mexico, you either have your hair cut or the mask comes off. Well, he had long hair, he'd never been beaten. And I beat him in a non-title match, which he'd never lost before. But when we did the return match, we sold it out with 33,000 people. Now, not just me, but I was top of the bill, main card with Pedro Aguayo. But it was like 5 or 6 world championships underneath it as well. It was a stacked card. And like I say, there was 33,000 people in there. And to this date, it's my biggest payday. And that was in 1977.
Awesome.
Yeah. Because there's not a lot of money in wrestling, as you probably know, unless you get to the top card, you know. But yeah, I always look back on it, John. I do these podcasts, and I'm thankful for it. But the thing is, I'm 70 next birthday in December, and some people say, "Take it easy, take it easy." I can go to the pub for a few drinks, and that's Marty Jones, the wrestler. Oh yeah. That wrestling's a load of shite, innit? It's all fake, innit? They all practice, innit? Next thing is I want them to fight them. You know what I mean? I've got to go cool it a little bit.
Yeah.
Because I'm walking about with a crutch with 17 screws. Even the surgeon, right? He knew who I was and was talking to, we're going to look after you and blah, blah, blah. Then another guy came in. I've just had my epidural ready to go down to theatre. And he said, this guy's famous. This is a Mr. Jones, blah, blah, blah. He used to be a wrestler. And this Asian doctor said, oh, wrestling's all fake, innit? I looked at him. And I'm going having 17 screws put in my ankle. I just thought, just leave me alone. But I've got to learn to just go with the flow, you know.
Don't get too worked up over it. Yeah. Who are some of your favorite guys that you've worked with in your career? 'Cause, man, we mentioned a bunch of good ones, but there's a ton we didn't mention or hadn't mentioned.
Well, what it was, John, I've got a pretty decent record. I could go on with anybody and try and make them look good. I'd like a good match. That's all I wanted. There's people you've never heard of that was probably, you know, but obviously I've got to say the main event cards, we fit Finlay and Rollerball. Regal always said that we revolutionised the, let's say, British style,
Right,
to go worldwide. But my favourite match is on YouTube if anybody wants to watch it. The match with Owen Hart was very good. And the reason why it was good, in Great Britain, or England, I should say, and Scotland, wrestling was always on a Saturday afternoon. But they started doing it, recording it, instead of it being live. Now, we have some great names in this business. Mick McManus, Kendo Nagasaki, Big Daddy, A-Stacks. And a lot of, I mean, your Daniel Bryans and people like that, they all came to the UK to learn the business. A lot of your top professionals in America came and worked on the holiday camps over here. We did holiday camps as well, where you could work 10 times a week. You understand what I mean? Twice a day sometimes.
Yep.
And we had all the town shows. So you can't get any better than that. Keep wrestling and wrestling and wrestling. The money was crap, but it was still a wage, you know, and it's something you love doing. So I think you're born to be a wrestler, a good wrestler anyway. But the thing is like, when Owen Hart came, I was telling you, what they do, they film 3 matches first. So if you was second match, you was top of the bill on the Saturday afternoon. If you was 5th match, you was top of the bill the following Saturday on TV. Now, don't forget, John, if the wrestling fans, we catered for everybody, the elderly, the disabled people, the viewers. Everybody watched wrestling, 18 million viewers. So that was our shop window. And if they enjoyed it, they said, oh, that Marty Jones, you know, he's from Oldham. He's on with that Rocco at the local hall next week. Shall we go and watch it? It was like a advert for us. Just like WrestleMania is now, and, you know, Raw and SmackDown. People watch it, and then when they come to Manchester or wherever, they go and get the tickets and watch it. But going back to Owen Hart, he was supposed to be on second with me, which was top of the bill for the first Saturday. And we got a message, there was a flight delay, fog or something. And it was in Bradford. Well, Bradford had an airport, but the main airport was Manchester, which was a good hour away. So the flight was delayed. So there was no way he was going to get back from the airport to where we were within the hour. So he switched the program and put me on 5th. So that meant I was top of the bill the following Saturday to give a bit more time.
Right.
And to this day, people will not believe it. And I'd like you to, once we're off the air, John, get you watch it in the viewers. The truth of the matter is, they sent a taxi for him to go and pick him up at Manchester Airport. They drove him all the way to Bradford, St George's Hall, which is Yorkshire. He put his gear on in the taxi, in the cab. And then the music started. I shook hands with him, and the music started playing for the 5th match. And we went straight in the ring, and it's called wrestling off the cuff, you know, just on the fly. And we did that match. And the time before, it was 2.5 years since I last wrestled him in Canada. And it was one of the best matches I've had. It's just one of them things, it clicked. But if there's somebody who's not as good as you, try and make them look as good as you.
Right.
Don't just go out yourself. It's a business as well as, you know.
Yep.
A lot of people used to like going on with me, to be fair, which was an honour, you know. But it was people. You had a great wrestler called Judo Alays that came from the UK. A wrestler called Tony Charles. Well, Tony Charles was my second match when coming into the business. And if I don't mind telling you, John, I disappeared up my own arse and come out the other end. He just tied me in knots. Yeah, he did. He was a great, fantastic wrestler. You know, it's good.
Now, as far as you, as we head towards the wind down, we head towards the finish, what do you think is the legacy of Marty Jones? Because not only legendary wrestler, like you're saying, we named all the awesome guys you worked, some of the places that you were able to work, but as a trainer as well. So what do you think is a legacy? Like when people remember you at the pub and they see you, what do you think that they're thinking?
It's difficult, John, because the word wrestling has changed now from when I used to wrestle, you know.
Mhm.
And people have got the views on it like they have with football, rugby. I mean, I can't stand American football. And people in my pub or in my social circle, they say, why not? I said, well, I get it, they work out and they're fit, but I like rugby league. You know the difference, John?
No.
Rugby league is a lot, I find it more physical. But somebody can get the ball, and if they can throw that ball half the length of the football, the rugby pitch, and they stood under the sticks, it's a try. And they're all padded up to hell, and they've got crash helmets on. I'm trying to say to you, they do their own thing. And wrestlers do their own thing. You either like it, you don't. But as far as me personally, I like to see people nowadays turn up for training, have a good session, say hello when they come in, say ta-ra when they go out, put them on some shows, and hopefully they get a tryout or they work regularly. And that's why I do trainee shows. And when I see all these kids that I'm training, you know, I'm not bothered. One time I used to say, I'm sorry, son, you're a bit too small. That doesn't apply anymore because there's loads of small wrestlers.
Yep.
A lot of big fat guys. There's a role for everybody. And I just like doing what I do. But if I had one wish now, my daughter's doing great in Australia. My son's doing great. I've been on my own for a long, long time because my wife passed away at the age of 40. And I've been on my own ever since.
Oh, my God.
And I like traveling. I like doing this. And I like doing my seminars. And I like going to America and passing on my knowledge. Because my knowledge isn't what they learn today. It's a mixture of both. And I like people to come to the seminars and then they say, wow, that was good. If you learn one thing, John, it's happy for me. But I would like that them coaches that I mentioned, you Danny Cage and people like that, and Rip Rogers and all them people, they train people the right way. But unfortunately, do you let anybody come in the business nowadays and give them a try?
Yep.
But they're doing something right. They're packing it out everywhere. I'm talking about where the guys with money are all right. But for people like us, when I do my shows, I think the last 3 shows I've lost money. Just the way it is. Because I can't afford the big name stars. But, like I say, if any of your listeners hopefully get in touch. I mean, there's a lot of 1 or 2 American guys. When I say guys that are on the indies over there, I'd never heard of them, honestly, before they came to the gym. But they come in here training with me, and they're going back and getting a lot of good reviews, and they're doing all right for themselves. Because I don't stop anybody going to anybody's seminars and training, but I just wish people had looked at the training or the trainer that's teaching these people and see what the credibilities were.
Yeah, big time.
You see, in England, we're getting a lot of, I don't know what it's like in America, but we've got this cost of living thing. You know, we're finding it very, very hard to survive these days. So people haven't got the subs or the fees to travel around. But anyway, we've been on an hour, John, and I really, really appreciate it.
Yes, me too.
If I come back again, and we can do a live stream where some of your viewers can do a Q&A.
Yes, good idea.
I'd like to do it because it's always good when you hear me answers, and then you get this, what I call them, a few balloons will come on, or clowns trying to outfox you and and say what they think.
Yes.
which they're entitled to. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. But I'd like to thank you for giving me this opportunity. And all I'm saying, if anybody does see me next year and they want to come down to the seminar, by all means, it'd be nice to meet you.
Where could everybody find you and your wrestling school?
Thank you.
Where could everybody find it?
Well, just on Facebook, YouTube, or wherever. It's a Squared Circle Wrestling Academy.
All right. Awesome. Mr. Jones, thank you so much for all the time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. All the best. Bye.